Hello, my name is Tom Bronak. And I am one of the founders of the JASTGAR eVOTE election system. Today I want to speak to you about the 2020 election and how our system design would have overcome many of the encountered problems. JASTGAR eVOTE is an election system designed to use the latest technology for providing confidentiality, integrity, and availability of voting data. We employ the use of today's technology to overcome the errors and flaws found in previous voting systems, so that a fair and honest election free of fraud and corruption can be experienced. We have monitored the results of the 2020 election and believe our approach would have eliminated much, if not all, of the interference found in the 2020 system. This video will explain what went wrong with the 2020 election and how our product can overcome the encountered failures in data integrity impacting the voting results. I hope you find this video informative. JASTGAR eVOTE Presentation Overview. This presentation will describe the problems discovered with the 2020 election, and provides an overview of how the JASTGAR eVOTE system can overcome those problems, while creating a new fair and honest voting system for the American people that they can trust. We will first examine the uncovered problems, and then illustrate how the JASTGAR eVOTE system can overcome them. Okay, let's get started. The 2020 election was riddled with problems that made many Americans lose trust in our existing voting system and the politicians running our country. It is obvious we need a better voting system, and we believe JASTGAR eVOTE meets the needs of a new American voting system. After reviewing the many frauds and crimes committed during the 2020 election, we have updated our system design to include some of the latest technology to ensure a fair and honest election. We realize our greatest challenge is political and our only path is a groundswell of support by the American public, but we believe now is the best time to build this system because so many Americans doubt the 2020 election results and want a new voting system that they can rely on and trust. We are seeking partners for funding and technical assistance, so that we can prepare our system for the next available voting cycle. We can start at the state, city, or county level and expand our offering to include the entire nation as proof of concept is achieved. JASTGAR eVOTE is also approved by the State Department for Foreign Sales, and Haiti is reviewing our product for potential use. 2020 election flaws that were reported. A man-in-the-middle attack was proven by Russell Ramsland, a well-renowned expert, by counting the bits in a vote when it was originated to when it was cast and noting the differences, thereby proving ballot tampering. Nancy Fanning proved illegal vote updates were accomplished over the internet by foreign countries via stolen administrator credentials and firewall breaks. Over 65% of vote tampering came from China, with other state-sponsored tampering in lower numbers. A demonstrated ability to provoke a cyber war by using stolen administrator credentials and compromised firewall protection can be used to defeat American infrastructure. This puts us at a terrible advantage during times of war. There was no reaction from the government when proof of election tampering was presented, illustrating that an insider threat exists at the highest levels of government. This is the most threatening condition of all, because it shows a fifth column exists in America that can attack us from the inside. A link is provided to view the Mike Lindell video of absolute proof of election fraud. It is an excellent video and shows proof of every type of crime committed. Illegal vote harvesting and counting by multiple states must be controlled to better support mail-in ballots and guarantee accurate counts. Big tech and the media would not publish proof of election fraud, allowing the election to be stolen. The media and big tech must be better controlled in support of our First Amendment rights. How JASTGAR eVOTE plans to defend against cyber attacks. Polling locations are connected via blockchain to provide data integrity and infrastructure management. Identity access management is built on role-based access control to identify people and their access rights, attribute-based access control to identify resources and their attributes, and zero-trust authentication to ensure that only authorized people can access resources under their allowed condition of create, read, update, or delete. Internet connections must adhere to zero-trust authentication before they are allowed access, thereby eliminating foreign access to the voting system. Adherence to data confidentiality, integrity, and availability, CIA, and Cybersecurity Foundation, CSF, standards and procedures are employed to enhance security protections. Biometrics are used to verify a person's identity and used to identify voters and administrative personnel to eliminate access to the voting system by unauthorized personnel. Paper ballots are requested, and a barcode stored in the requester's database record. When ballots are counted, they are matched to the requester and the polling station the requester is assigned to. The polling station vote count is increased when votes are cast and the polling station count cannot be higher than the number of voters assigned to the polling station. These voters include mail-in voters, walk-in voters, and remote voters when added to the system. A voting operations center will monitor activity and report anomalies via alerts. Actions can be taken to vary failing components offline, replace them with spare components, and dispatch technicians to repair the broken component. This activity is tracked and reported on by the VOC. An audit management system provides a trail of evidence for prosecuting violators and to support voting analysis. Conclusions. The 2020 election proved we need a new election system that can defeat the flaws of our current system and provide our citizens with a system that is a true representation of their votes. The JASTGAR eVOTE system is based on one person, one vote, eliminates fraud and corruption at their inception, and can support primary and general elections. Our design employs the newest infrastructure and security technology, like blockchain, cybersecurity foundation, and zero trust authentication. We adhere to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability requirements used to defeat malware and virus attacks. Our Voting Operations Center employs Security Orchestration Automation Response, SOAR, technology to manage security tools so that a more accurate picture of security violations can be achieved, while the use of playbooks, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotic process automation can lead to the elimination of malware, viruses, and reduce processing interruptions through automated procedures that replace current manual tasks. We eliminate single point of failures within our system and strive to provide an active environment that can provide continuous availability to our system operations. Each polling station maintains an audit trail of their activity that manages the voters assigned to their polling station, verifying that the number of voters per polling station does not exceed the total count of voters assigned to the polling station. Polling stations' audit logs are transferred to the Voting Operations Center for inclusion in a master audit file that is archived after the election. Benefits offered by the JASTGAR eVOTE election system include: designed to guarantee one person, one vote. Use of biometrics to verify a person's identity and eliminate fraud. Applied to both voters and staff to eliminate unauthorized access to sensitive data. We have a proprietary database design that includes a protected parent record that only the owner can access, unless they provide authorization, or a court order is used to gain access. This safeguards the person's personal identifiable information and provides them with a high degree of security. Our database system can easily integrate with government and business databases to gather vetting information or maintain a person's name and address information should they move or get married. Our database system is used to validate that a person has not previously voted in this election and will therefore eliminate corruption and double voting. Functions and features of the JASTGAR eVOTE system include: we provide biometric access via a citizen ID card, or mobile device that adhered to zero trust authentication. Data is transferred in our system via blockchain technology to prevent data tampering and maintain data integrity. The use of blockchain technology connects polling stations to voting headquarters and encrypts votes between from polling stations which are decrypted at voting headquarters and where the vote tally is accomplished. This system prevents data tampering and eliminates foreign country access via the Internet. Absentee, mail-in, and remote voting is support in our system, along with the normal walk-in voting people are used too. Our product can support primary and general elections, and can also be used to support primary caucus balloting. Our e-card apps can be used to maintain your personal protected profile, or obtain information related to election activities. We have designed the use of remote voting into our system, because we believe most people would rather vote by phone than go out in the cold night to submit their vote. Voter activity is tied to their polling station, which supports walk-in, mail-in, absentee, and remote voting operations. The polling station poll books are generated from the citizen database through a filter sort. The type of vote preferred by the voter is added to their database record, and our blank ballot distribution system provides them with the ballot associated with their polling station, containing the proper candidates and referendums. How the JASTGAR eVOTE system performs. verifying people and protecting data integrity. When researching the existing voting systems, we looked at world standards, country standards, and how best to design and construct a voter ID card based on their biometrics. Then we had to determine which biometrics we wanted to use and how best to obtain those biometrics. Biometric information is scanned and converted to digital format, so it can be stored in the voter's protected personal parent record, or a child record appended to their database. We then had to determine how best to create a national ID biometric smart card for use as a voter ID, or personal ID in the case of a person failing the vetting process. This slide shows our progression and some of the pertinent information we gleaned through our research. We finally decided to create a database that would have a protected parent record, and searchable child records. This allowed for information gathering without identifying any personal information. One of the things we realized right away is how vulnerable the Social Security card is and how little protection is provided over it. We believe our system can easily replace the Social Security card and eliminate a lot of corruption based on stolen Social Security numbers and cards. Our final database design had to verify individuals to eliminate fraud, validate voting record to eliminate corruption and double voting, and incorporate blockchain technology for data transfer and to eliminate data tampering. We also separated information into the protected personal parent record, and searchable child records associated with the parent record. This structure will be explained in more detail later. Adhering to standards, laws, and best practices. This slide shows our due diligence when researching how to develop the JASTGAR eVOTE system. We started to define how to perform voter identification by reviewing the Real ID Act and how best to provide physical access and logical access to our system. We continued by examining the types of ID cards used under the e-Government, HSPD 12, and unique universal ID standards. Finally, we reviewed the PIV and PIV-I cards used by the government and the derived PIV credentials used to support remote device access to government systems. At the end, we incorporated these standards into our JASTGAR e-card. We then examined the electronic voting system standards contained in the Help America Vote Act of 2002, the Election Assistance Commission guidelines, and the Voluntary Voting System guidelines. From this information, we developed our JASTGAR e-card, JASTGAR e-vetting, and e-card apps design. Finally, we designed how this information would function within our JASTGAR eVOTE system. A pictorial representation of our system's operation is shown below, starting when an applicant requests an e-card for either for voting or as a personal ID card. After registration, the individual is placed in our voter repository and the vetting process begins. If the person passes vetting, then they become an eligible voter. If they fail vetting, then they will receive a personal identification card that does not allow them to vote, but can be used for identification purposes. The eligible voter list is filtered by polling station and electronic poll books are sent to the polling station and placed on their local server. This information is used to verify a person's identity when they request a ballot at the polling station. A live biometric scan of the individual is compared to their smart card and their database record, so that the polling clerk knows the person is who they say they are. Additionally, a search of their database record will show if they have already voted in this election. This verification process eliminates fraud and corruption prior to allowing a person to vote. Voters submit their vote through walk-in voting, absentee voting, mail-in ballots, and remote voting when it is approved. All voter records are tagged with the type of vote they requested and cast. The total number of votes cast cannot exceed the number of people assigned to the polling station. Our blank ballot distribution system ensures voters receive the ballot associated with their polling station. Votes received at the polling station are periodically sent to headquarters via blockchain, either based on a time frame or vote count. Voting headquarters can then decrypt the code and generate the voting tally for release to the media and general public. This process takes minutes to accomplish. Paper ballot system running in parallel to eVOTE. This illustration shows how our entire system works together. Starting with voter registration and the creation of a smart e-card that can be used for voting or as a personal identification card. We utilize biometrics loaded on the smart card chip to verify a person's identity. After registration, the individual is entered into our citizen repository. The vetting process starts next, where an individual's background and credentials are verified against state election system standards. Individuals that pass vetting are placed on our eligible voters list. Electronic poll books are generated from the eligible voters list through a filtered search. A copy of the records of individuals assigned to a polling station are sent to the polling station's local server and used to verify voter identity. People can request paper-based ballots, either mail-in or absentee, or electronic ballots, either via remote voting or via walk-in voting. The type of voter requested is added to the individual's database record. Paper ballots are sent to the address of the voter requesting them, but prior to accepting a paper ballot request, the individual is asked to verify their current address to ensure proper mailing, receipt, and return of the vote. A separate PIN is sent along with the paper ballot, so the voter can add the PIN to the barcode included on the ballot to prove they are the person submitting the ballot. Our vote capture devices are used to convert votes to an electronic image for shipment to the election management system, where the vote is processed, added to the voting database, and shipped to headquarters for a final tally and publication to the media and general public. Our entire process generates audit records to provide a trail of evidence associated with the voting process. These audit records can be examined in real time at the Voting Operations Center to spot anomalies, issue alerts, and take actions to mitigate failures and attempted cybercrimes. Creating ballots via the blank ballot distribution system. This slide shows how the JASTGAR eVOTE system works from when the Election Commission creates election standards used to vet voters to determine their eligibility. The vetting process occurs right after voter registration and determines if an individual is eligible to vote or not. If vetting is passed, the individual is placed on the eligible voters list. The type of ballot requested by the voter is added to eligible voter list entry associated with the voter. They can request paper or electronic ballots. Paper ballots can be absentee or mail-in, while electronic ballots can be remote via smartphone or PC, or via walk-in voting at the polling station. The ballot format is determined by the Election Commission and may be different for polling stations due to local candidate and referendums, so it is important to make sure people are provided with the right ballot when voting. We accomplish this through our blank ballot distribution system. We receive ballot formats for all voting districts and polling stations, then add them to our template database. When people request paper ballots, they are related to their polling station and the ballot associated with that polling station is sent to them. We add a barcode to paper ballots and place the barcode in the individual's database record as a child record, so personal identifiable information is not related to the vote. We also send a PIN number to the voter in a separate mailing, so that they can place the PIN on their vote to prove it was them who submitted the vote. In all types of voting, our blank ballot distribution system will ensure the voter receives the correct ballot to cast their vote. Returning ballots pass through our vote capture device module and presented to the election management system for processing. Our audit management system maintains an audit trail of all voting activity and can be viewed by the Voting Operations Center during the election. Once the election is completed, the audit trail is archived for future analysis and to produce evidence needed to prosecute violators of election laws and regulations. Blockchain Voting Station Network. This slide will help you understand how we use blockchain technology in our voting system. To begin with, each vote is encrypted when submitted to make it harder to tamper with votes. The votes are placed in a block of votes and that block gets encrypted separately. So now, both the votes in the block itself are encrypted. The blockchain network consists of all of the polling stations and voting headquarters. This network is constantly circulating between the polling stations and the vote count can be viewed at each station, but records in the block cannot be tampered with. In this illustration, the blockchain header is created and the votes contained within the block are identified by polling station 105 and voting booth 1 to 4. The vote is then added to the record. This will allow you to identify anomalies in voting booths or the polling station. The header, blockchain record, and trailer are used to pass data blocks via the blockchain network. Blocks are entered on the chain periodically, either based on a time period, like every 15 minutes, or a count of votes, like every 500 votes. Connecting to the chain requires producing a header link and a trailer link, so the chain can be consistently checked to ensure no illegal items were added. If an attempt is made to add to the blockchain, then the intruder must be able to match the header and trailer information, which is extremely difficult to accomplish. Once information reached voting headquarters from the polling stations, it is decrypted and the vote tally updated to include the votes. At that point, the media and general public can be made aware of the current vote tally. Blockchain used in electronic voting system. Perhaps this slide will make understanding why we chose the use of blockchain technology for data transmission over the internet. It is the only way we are able to provide data integrity when votes are transmitted. First, let's examine the block itself. Data is hashed when it is placed into the block to prevent tampering of votes. Then the block itself is hashed to prevent tampering with a block. This provides a double safety factor to voting data integrity. Next, let us look at how the blockchain itself is created and maintained. A Genesis record starts the chain and we have voting headquarters create that block when the election starts. The Genesis record has a previous hash of 0000. The next block generated a header hash and uses the Genesis block as its previous record. Each block on the chain generates a header and relates to the previous record by that record's trailer hash number. This continues around the chain until it returns to the voting headquarters where votes are tallied and presented to the general public and the media. A proof of work is performed to validate the chain's integrity and prevent breaks in the chain. Should a break in the chain occur, it can be re-established through the header and trailer relationship until fully formed again, thereby guaranteeing that votes are not lost. How we utilize this technology in our voting system is shown on the left. Voting headquarters generates the Genesis record when the election starts and all of the polling stations join the chain as they open for voting. Voting blocks are added to the network periodically and sent to headquarters for final tally and public announcement. Remote access via Zero Trust Authentication. Now that blockchain technology was explained and how we use it to provide data integrity over the internet, let me try to explain how Zero Trust Authentication helps us protect against intruders. When a staff member or voter tries to enter our system, they must use the Zero Trust Authentication method to be able to connect to resources. Zero Trust has a policy decision point and a policy enforcement point. Decisions are coded in the policy decision point and they have to be met prior to allowing communication between a person and a resource. Once verified, a certificate token is received and a transmission tunnel established between the physical unit, person, and the logical unit, resource, or product. We use Zero Trust to verify a person's authority to access our system and its resources. After approval, data is transferred to our vote capture device module and processed for entry to the election management system and vote submission as described earlier. The advantage of Zero Trust Authentication is both the person and the resource have to be identified before access is allowed. This technique will hinder illegal entry to our system from foreign intruders. Vote processing with checks and balances. This slide provides a complete look at the logical flow of voter activity within our system. I will not go into the details, but you can get a good understanding of how we process votes, provide checks and balances, and generate an accurate vote tally that is free from outside interference. We start when the voter is registered and verified via their biometric information. Voters are vetted and verified as eligible voters. Then a citizen database record is created with protected parent records and searchable child records. The individual's voting method is defined in their database record and the election defined as a primary or general election. The voter database maintains voter information regarding their voting status and eliminated double voting from occurring. Polling stations contain voters for a specific district, regardless of the type of vote they submit. The polling station tally cannot exceed the number of voters assigned to it. Polling stations will forward votes to voting headquarters for processing and defining the final tally. Our audit management system monitors all voting activity and can be used to identify anomalies in real time or via analysis of the archived audit management log after an election is completed. Questions and answers. I want to thank you for taking time to view this video. I hope you found it informative. Should you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for improvement, please forward to the email addresses provided for Tom Bronak or Alex Jekrois. We will reply as quickly as possible. The JASTGAR eVOTE system is a design that needs to be built. We are seeking partners who can assist in the funding required to build the system and bring it to market. Should you want to help, please contact us. We would be delighted to hear from an angel. Thanks again. Tom Bronack.